We're going to be touring the mid-Atlantic coast by taking US 13. Alright everyone, to kick off summer, we're going to be doing US Highway 13. Because US 13 is a very summertime themed road as it travels the Delmarva Peninsula and helps connect all those little communities with the big cities on the peninsula. Also, it is the road that actually travels the famous Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, so that's pretty cool. And we're also going to be doing Interstate 295 in the Fayetteville region because that's basically an extension of US Highway 13. So let us get started with the great US 13. But first, you're watching TheDerpHog, where I make highways content on all sorts of different topics. If you've been enjoying it, be sure to hit that like button. And if you've been really enjoying it, be sure to smash that subscribe button so you're notified on all future videos. And if you really want to help out the channel, become a member today where you get custom cool emojis, early access to future videos, along with one free extra request per month. And if you don't want to become a member, you can always just pay $3 for a intersection request in future videos. Those highways will be listed down in the description below, and I'll make sure to shout you out when that video releases. So let's get on with the highway. As we can see here, this is the map of US Highway 13 as it starts at a junction with Interstate 95 and 295 north of Fayetteville, heads in a northeasterly direction towards the Hampton Roads area, up through the Delmarva Peninsula, and ending at a junction with US Highway 1 just north of Philadelphia. So with that, I'm going northbound on US Highway 13. But we're actually going to begin here at the southern terminus of Interstate 295, which actually opened just recently. I think it was December of last year, where you can see that 295 is getting signed for Fort Bragg, which I think is an okay choice for now because Fort Bragg is the main military base for Fayetteville, and we can see that 95 is getting signed north for Fayetteville. And here's my own picture where Interstate 295 was still known as North Carolina 295 and Fort Bragg was still known as Fort Liberty. Our first major exit on Interstate 295 is for Parkton Road, and I did look and there are no control cities for Interstate 295 sadly, or Google Street View just hasn't come through the area yet to update the exit. And here we meet with US Highway 401, the Great 401, and this was actually Interstate 295 southern terminus up until, like I said, December of last year, where it was extended down to Interstate 95. And we can see that the Great 401 is getting signed for Rayford and Fayetteville. I do like seeing that Fayetteville, but that Rayford should definitely be Laurinburg. And if you want to check out a video on US Highway 401, it's in the top right corner here. Our next major exit is for North Carolina 24 and 87 as they're getting signed for the All-American Freeway and Bragg Boulevard. Actually, the All-American Freeway is its own separate freeway, and I like how it's known as the All-American. Yoo-hoo! And this is also the main exit which will take you towards Fort Bragg. And we can see that Interstate 295 is just now getting signed to Interstate 95. I would prefer to see either Richmond or Goldsboro on here because 295 turns into US Highway 13, and I don't like highways being signed to other highways without a control city. Here's where North Carolina 24 and 87 joins North Carolina 210 as they're all signed for Spring Lake. And here we meet with US Highway 401 once again, and this time it's now getting signed for Lillington and Fayetteville. As someone who has traveled this portion of US Highway 401 many times, I think Raleigh should be on here because guess what's on the bottom line of all the mileage signs between here and Raleigh? Yeah, Raleigh, so Raleigh should be on here. Plus US 401 is the main or the fastest way to Raleigh from here, so why is it not being signed in CDOT? Also, if you want to check out another US 401 video, this one was made by Quarter Munch 437 and it'll be in the top right corner here too. Here's my own picture of the Interstate 95 exit, and we can see that's getting terrible control cities of Benson and Lumberton. Boo! And here's the main exit for Interstate 95, which is getting signed for the two terrible control cities that we saw. And we can see that we're now getting a pull-through for US Highway 13 getting signed for Newton Grove and Goldsboro. Also, I do have my own picture of this junction, but sadly it was in terrible view quality, so I didn't use it for the video. Also, this is not actually current street view. This is current street view where the entire gantry was taken down, which I don't know why, but US 13 was at least mentioned before it was taken down, which stinks. Yeah, but if we take a look on Interstate 95, we can see that they're just signing the secondary of Newton Grove, which I do not like at all because Newton Grove only has a population of like 500 people. And here we're gonna end Interstate 295 shield and US Highway 13 reassurance shield, so that's pretty awesome. Our first major mileage sign on US Highway 13 is for Goldsboro from 49 miles away. Now that's an awesome. Here we meet with North Carolina Highway 82, which is just a mainly pointless state highway which will take you towards Irwin. No, not that Irwin, this Irwin, where we will meet with North Carolina 217 along with US 421. In Spivey's Corner, we meet with US Highway 421, and we can see that it's being signed for Dunn and Clinton. And if you want to check out a video on US 421, it's in the top right corner here. Anyway, skipping ahead to the Newton Grove area, we're actually going over Interstate 40 here, and it stinks that we do not have a direct interchange with it. But if we actually take a look on the map, you can either use US 701 or North Carolina Highway 50 to get back towards Interstate 40. So it kind of makes up for it by meaning a whole lot of highways that will take you back towards Interstate 40. Also, I have been to Newton Grove, and it is actually a nice little town, but it should not be signed on US Highway 13. For our next mileage sign, we actually now get Greenville, North Carolina as our primary from 63 miles away. Which, if you want to sign something beyond Goldsboro, Greenville is definitely the correct choice. Well done, NC Dot. You're actually doing pretty good so far. Here we meet with US Highway 117, and we're now going to be concurrent with it as we head towards downtown Goldsboro. Here we get another mileage sign, but this time it's a control city on US Highway 117, which I did cover, and you can check out down in the description below. Here we meet the southern terminus of Interstate 795, which will take you up towards US 70 and Interstate 42, as it's being signed for Wilson and Raleigh. While we're not getting signed for Kinston and Greenville, because we're going to be meeting 70 eastbound. Here is where US 70 joins up with US 13 and 117, as we're still getting the same control cities that we saw going back at Interstate 795. Here's where US 117 splits off from 13 and 70, as I'll head north towards Wilson. And this is where US 13 splits off from US Highway 70, as I'm now getting signed for Snow Hill. I mean, I do like that choice of the Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, which is actually a very cool and interesting base, which you should definitely check out. But Snow Hill should definitely be replaced with Greenville, because we were being signed for it from Newton Grove. Why isn't it on this exit sign, NC Dot? Anyways, north of Goldsboro, we're now meeting with the brand new Interstate 42 being signed for Raleigh and Kinston respectively. And if you want to check out a video on Interstate 42, my version, it's in the top right corner here. I will also list both versions down in the description below. Anyways, now skipping ahead to the Snow Hill area, we're now going to be joining with North Carolina Highway 903, as we're now getting signed for Greenville once again. So Greenville does come back. And our next mileage sign, we're now getting Farmville as our secondary from 13 miles away, and Greenville still as our primary. Here's where North Carolina 903 splits off to head towards Ayden, and we're now getting signed for Farmville. What's happened to Greenville? Why is Greenville going away? For our next mileage sign, we're still getting Greenville as our primary, so NC Dot's just signing the stupid secondaries like they always do. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that we're also concurrent with US Highway 258 here, so this is where we actually split off from it to head towards Greenville now. Now we're going to be joining with US Highway 264 as we head towards downtown Greenville. And this is where US 264 splits off from us to hop onto the North Carolina Highway 11 bypass to head towards Washington, North Carolina, which does belong on US 264. Here in downtown Greenville, we're meeting with North Carolina 11 proper, North Carolina 43, and at 903 once again. So that's a lot of highways. And we're now getting signed for Bethel. No, I want to see Williamston, not Bethel, please, NC Dot. But our next mileage sign, we do get Williamston as our primary from 31 miles away. Stupid secondaries. Anyways, here in the Bethel area, we're now going to be joining with US Highway 64 as we're going to be heading east towards Williamston. Here we meet with US Highway 17, and 17 northbound is now going to be concurrent with us. And oh boy, do I have something planned for going southbound when US 17 leaves us. Here's where US 64 leaves 13 and 17 as we'll head towards Plymouth and Manteo, while we're now getting signed for Williamston and Windsor. I mean, we're basically already in the Williamston area. I would definitely love to see a Hosky and Elizabeth City here, not Windsor. But our next mileage time, we actually do get Elizabeth City as our primary from 63 miles away, so yay! Here's where we split off from US Highway 17 to head north towards Ahoskie. Here we meet with North Carolina Highway 42 and the great metropolis of Powellsville. If you know, you know. Here in Ahoskie, we split off from North Carolina 42 as they'll head towards Allander. We're now getting signed for Winton. No, Winton is a very tiny town. I would like to see one of the Hampton roads being signed. Or Suffolk, not Winton, NC Dot. But luckily in our next mileage time, we do get Suffolk as our primary from 39 miles away. So why can't it be on that split with North Carolina 42? Anyways, here in the Winton area, we're now meeting with US Highway 158 as we'll head west towards Murfreesboro, while we're now going to be concurrent with 158 eastbound as we head up towards Suffolk. Well, US 158 actually splits off from us in the unincorporated community of Tar Heel, as we'll head east towards Elizabeth City now, and we're now still getting signed for Suffolk. For our next mileage sign, we actually now get Portsmouth as our primary from 45 miles away, so that is awesome. And we're now entering into the state of Virginia, so let us see what Virginia has to offer on US 13. Our first mileage time, we actually do get Norfolk as our primary from 30 miles away, so that is pretty cool. And here's where you'll be joining with US Highway 58 as we head towards Norfolk, and 58 westbound will head towards Emporia. And if you want to check out a video on US Highway 58, it's in the top right corner here. I'm going to be skipping both the 58 and 460 concurrencies because I recovered in both of those respective videos. Anyways, here's where US 460 splits off from US Highway 13 as it's being signed for South Norfolk. What is that? Why not just Norfolk proper? Here we meet with Interstate 464, which will take you over towards both US 17 and Interstate 264. Here now we meet with Interstate 264 itself, being signed for Richmond and Virginia Beach going one direction, and downtown Norfolk going the other. Here we meet with US Highway 58 once again, and US 13 is now just being signed north as the military highway, which I think is okay with because we are within the heart of the Hampton Roads metro area, so it's okay to sign the Kentucky treatment here. Now we're meeting with Interstate 64 itself, and we can see that we now get a shield for the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, so wow, that is awesome. Before we hop onto the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, we're actually meeting with US Highway 60 here, and it's just getting signed for beaches, which I think is okay because it does travel along the coast here within the Hampton Roads area. And here is a cool view of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, or the bridge portion of the bridge tunnel. And this is where we enter for the tunnel portion of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. And here we emerge on the other side now on the Delmarva Peninsula, so we're not going to be on it for a good while now. And our first mileage sign here on the Delmarva Peninsula, we actually now get Maryland State Line as our primary from 68 miles away. Thank goodness it's not 1 mile closer, because on our next mileage time we actually now get Salisbury, so we actually now get an actual city from 70 miles away. And then now we're entering into the state of Maryland, so let us see what Maryland has to offer on US 13. And yeah, in Maryland, we actually meet with one of our children, or the only child, US Highway 113, and that'll actually hug closer towards the coast. So if you want to actually truly follow the coast, take US 113 here. Our next mileage time, we actually do get Salisbury still as our primary from 29 miles away, which I think is okay choice. Here in Salisbury, Maryland, we're meeting with US Highway 50, and 50 eastbound will take you towards Ocean City, while we're not going to be concurrent with 50 westbound here. On the north side of Salisbury, we split off from US Highway 50 as it's now getting signed west for the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. Yes, I get that it's a major landmark and it's a very famous bridge, but I would prefer to see an actual city or like Annapolis or Washington DC sign, because I don't like stuff like that's not cities being signed on major highways. At least US 13 is now getting signed for Dover, Delaware, which is an awesome choice. For our next mileage time, we actually now get Wilmington, Delaware as our primary from 97 miles away. Now this is MDOT being awesome here. Why can't you do this everywhere else in the state? Or at least in the unpopulated portions of the state. For the second time on this channel, we're now entering into the state of Delaware, so welcome back to Delaware. And right away we're actually meeting with Maryland 54 and Delaware Highway 54, because it's a state highway that actually travels along the Maryland and Delaware border. It's just that they're choosing to sign the Delaware portion instead of the Maryland portion. Also, I like how the arrows are facing towards each other, like 54 is gonna collide. Our first mileage time here in the state of Delaware, we actually get Dover, its capital, as a primary from 50 miles away. And here we meet the southern terminus of US Highway 9, which will actually take you up towards New York City. And we can see that US 13 is now getting signed north for Milford, Dover, and Wilmington now. So we're getting 3 different control cities. For our next mileage time, we're still getting Dover as our primary from only 25 miles away, which is okay because Dover is the capital of Delaware. Anyways, here in the Dover area, we're actually meeting the connector route, which will take you over to Delaware Highway 1, and that will take you up towards Wilmington, while US 13 will go through the heart of Dover. After going through Dover, we get another mileage time with Wilmington as our primary from 46 miles away. Here, still in the Dover area, we're meeting with Delaware Highway 6, and we're now getting signed to Delaware Highway 300. And here we're actually now paralleling Delaware Highway 1, and this is actually the northern terminus of US Highway 301. First of 2 intersection requests made by Chuck Slezak. He wanted to see the US 13 and Delaware 7 junction, because Delaware 7 is actually part of US 13's old route before Delaware Highway 1 was built as a freeway. So thank you for that request, and it's pretty interesting that we get to learn a little bit more about 13 here. Anyways, a ways up the road, we're not actually going to be joining with Delaware Highway 1 as we're now getting signed north for Wilmington. And this is where we split off from Delaware Highway 1 for good, as we'll head up towards Interstate 95, getting signed for Wilmington and Baltimore, as we're now getting signed for Newcastle in New Jersey and New York because of Interstate 295. And here we're actually now merging into US Highway 40 here in the Newcastle area, so now we're going to be concurrent with the Great US 40. And here we have Chuck Slezak's second intersection request, and this one was for Delaware Highway 273 here in Newcastle. He wanted to request it because at this junction with US Highway 13 and 40 is the Newcastle County Farmers Market, which apparently has a large selection of stores and eateries along with an outdoor flea market. And he's actually been there a couple of times and bought some pretty cool and interesting stuff from the flea market. So thank you for that request. And if he says it has like a whole bunch of different food and eateries, I would definitely love to check it out someday, along with that outdoor flea market. Further up the road, we're now meeting the southern terminus of US Highway 202, getting signed north for Newport, while US 40 is actually going to be splitting off from us to hop onto Interstate 295 in a mile. And we can see that we're now getting signed for Wilmington and Philly, so Philly gets a mention. And here is where US 40 splits off to join on to Interstate 295, and we can see that 295 is now getting signed for Philadelphia and Baltimore. And this is where we meet with Interstate 495, and that will take you up towards Philadelphia, as we're now getting signed for Wilmington and Edgemore. Okay. Anyways, here's a good view of downtown Wilmington along US Highway 13 proper, but don't worry, we'll actually be getting a better view as we go southbound on US Highway 13. And here we are now paralleling Interstate 495 as we're still within the Wilmington metro area. And a ways up the road, we're now entering into our last state, Pennsylvania. And it's stupid how they don't give us a welcome to Pennsylvania sign, not even those little tiny ones. What are we, US 19? Our first major junction here in the state of Pennsylvania is with US Highway 322. And this is where we split off from Pennsylvania Highway 291, as we were concurrent with it from the beginning of the state. And this here is Interstate 95 in the Chester area. We're now going to be going under Interstate 95 as we head towards West Philadelphia. In fact, here's a view of downtown West Philadelphia. And then US 13 further up the road actually passes right by the Philadelphia Zoo, which I do like zoos. And out that same junction, we're also meeting with US Highway 30 and Interstate 76. And we're now going to be crossing over the Schuylkill River here into Philadelphia proper now. And as we're crossing over the river, we actually get an amazing view of the Philadelphia skyline. And this is where we're actually be joining with US Highway 1, and US 1 and 13 are going to be a freeway as we head through the Philadelphia area. And this is where we actually saw this in the US 1 video, where US 13 splits off to head towards the Palmtree Bridge, which for some reason is favoring Pennsylvania 73, which I don't know why. Why don't we just get like an excerpt of Philadelphia instead? Because US 13 does not cross this bridge. This is just PennDOT being stupid like always. And here we meet the road that actually crosses the Palmtree Bridge, Pennsylvania Highway 73 here. So like I said, they were favoring Pennsylvania 73. And then further up the road, we actually now meet with Pennsylvania Highway 63, as 63 westbound is going to be concurrent with us. And then our next major junction is with Pennsylvania Highway 413, as it's getting signed for Pendle going one direction and Bristol going the other. And here we meet with Interstate 95 and Interstate 276, or what is getting error shielded as the Pennsylvania Turnpike 276 state highway sign, sadly. And then here we meet with Interstate 95 proper. And here we can see that PennDOT is giving out these PA Turnpike keystones for the interstates here for 276. And here we meet with Interstate 95 actually, as they'll also take you over toward Interstate 276 in the Pennsylvania Turnpike. And then we finally end here at US Highway 1, which is getting signed for Trenton going northbound, which is awesome, and southbound for Philadelphia. And if we actually continue beyond this intersection, we do get an end US Highway 13 northbound shield, so that is awesome by PennDOT here. So with that, me turning around and doing southbound US Highway 13. And here we begin on US Highway 1, where you can see that 13 is getting signed south for Tullytown and Bristol, which kind of makes sense because we were just coming from the Philadelphia area, and why would you want to take 13 back towards the city when we were just coming from it? Also, this picture of the 1 and 13 junction was provided by Jay the Great Gaming, so thank you for this picture. And our first major junction after leaving US 1 is with Interstate 95, and it actually gets really good control cities, so that is awesome by PennDOT here. And here we meet with Pennsylvania Highway 413 once again, as we're now getting signed south for Bensalem. Here in Bensalem, we're now getting signed for Philadelphia proper, so that is awesome. And now we're going to be joining with US Highway 1 as we're going to be heading back towards western Philadelphia. Here's where we split off from US Highway 1, as on the freeway we get a newer sign, while on the local lanes we actually get a pretty unique, interesting, old style looking sign with the buttoned highways. And after crossing over the Schuylkill River, we're meeting with Interstate 76 and US Highway 30. as it's getting signed for Central Philly and Valley Forge. That should be Harrisburg, sign Harrisburg. Here in Western Philadelphia, we're meeting with Pennsylvania Highway 3 here. And I actually had to go all the way back to like 2012 or something, because in current Street View, that Pennsylvania 3 keystone is actually missing and has been missing for quite a while now. And here is in the Philadelphia exurbs, we're actually getting error shielded for Pennsylvania Highway 13. No, PennDOT, we're on US 13. There's no such thing as Pennsylvania 13. Here we meet with US Highway 322 in the Chester area, and that will actually take you also over towards Interstate 95. And we're now entering back into the state of Delaware, and at least Delaware does give us a welcome sign, unlike Pennsylvania. Our first major junction in Delaware is with Interstate 495, which will take you also towards Interstate 95. And you know how I said that we're going to get a better view of the downtown Delaware area? Well, we're going to be following Business 13, as that will be the road that will take you towards downtown. Here we meet with Delaware Highway 3 as we get the Wilmington skyline looming in the distance, so that's pretty cool. And here is a cool look at downtown Wilmington, as US 13 Business will be heading into it. And then once we reunite with US 13 proper, we're meeting with Interstate 495 once again, and we're now just getting signed for Dover as our next control city. Here we meet with Interstate 295, and US 40 is actually going to be joining us as we head towards Dover and Bear. Here we meet the southern terminus of US Highway 202 once again, and we're now just getting signed for Dover and the beaches. Here's where we split off from US Highway 40 as it's getting signed west for Glasgow and Baltimore, so Baltimore is awesome. And we're now going to be joining with Delaware Highway 1 and US 301 as we're still heading towards Dover still. In fact, our next mileage time we actually do get Dover as our primary from 39 miles away. Here's where we split off from Delaware Highway 1, and we're now going to be paralleling it as we're meeting with Delaware 72. Getting signed for Delaware City and St. George's. Here we can see in the distance that Delaware 1 meets the northern terminus of US Highway 301, and it's getting signed correctly for Annapolis, so yay! And here we get another mileage sign with Dover still as our primary, and when do we come to Texas? Here we meet with Delaware Highway 8 in the Dover area. And still in the Dover area, we meet the connector road that will take you back towards Delaware 1. And we can now getting signed for Camden and Seaford. Okay, I would prefer to see Salisbury, Maryland instead, because from Salisbury, MDOT was signing your capital. But our next mileage time, we actually now get a very first Delaware inconsistency. We're now getting Harrington from 15 miles away. I have never heard of that place. Luckily, after going through Felton, we get another mileage sign with Seaford as our primary once again from 26 miles away. Again, I would prefer to see Salisbury on here because, like I said, if MDOT was signing Dover from Salisbury, then Delaware can reciprocate and sign Salisbury from Dover. Anyways, here in Seaford, we meet with Delaware Highway 20. And I don't really see any other major intersection in the Seaford area besides this. But our next mileage time, we are now getting finally signed for Salisbury from 19 miles away, so that is awesome to see. Also, Laurel is where we meet with the southern terminus of US Highway 9. And I got another question, when did we come to Mississippi? Anyways, here in Laurel, Delaware, we're meeting like I said, the southern terminus of US Highway 9. And here we meet with Delaware 54 / Maryland 54 once again, as we're now entering into the state of Maryland. Here we get our first mileage sign, we get Pocomoke City as our primary. I would prefer to see, I don't know, maybe the Hampton Road cities, because I never heard of Pocomoke City. Plus, this is the fastest way to the Hampton Roads area from Salisbury, so sign one of those, MDOT. You were doing so good on northbound, why did you have to ruin it here? Here in the Salisbury area, we're now going to be joining with US Highway 50, and we can see that we're now getting signed for Norfolk, which is the correct choice. Here's where we split off from US Highway 50 as I head east towards Ocean City and US 113, and we're now getting signed south toward Norfolk. In fact, Norfolk is on our bottom line at 133 miles away on our next mileage sign. And here we meet the southern terminus of US Highway 113, which will take you back up towards Ocean City. And here we get one last mileage sign in the state of Maryland with Norfolk from 103 miles away. Wow. Now we're entering into the state of Virginia, so let's see what Virginia has to offer on southbound. Our first mileage sign, we do get Norfolk from 99 miles away. But a ways up the road, we're now changing to Portsmouth from 91, which I think is okay because the Portsmouth is still within the Hampton Roads area. At least they're not sending something really small on the Delmarva Peninsula. But once we get closer to the Bay Bridge Tunnel, we're now just getting the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel as our primary. What happened to the Hampton Roads cities? But luckily, our next mileage time, we are now getting both Norfolk and Suffolk now as our primary from 63 miles away. So they're actually going beyond the Hampton Roads and signing where we split off from US 58, which I guess is okay, but you could just do a two-liner here. And now we're hopping back onto the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel as we're going to be crossing over the Chesapeake Bay. And here we enter the tunnel part once again. And on the other side, we meet with US Highway 60, and we can see that it's being signed for who knows what. And here we meet with Interstate 64 once again, being signed for Hampton and Richmond going one direction, and downtown Norfolk and Chesapeake and Suffolk going the other. Here we meet with US Highway 58 once again, and it's getting the Kentucky treatment, which is fine because we're within the heart of the Hampton Roads metro area. Here we meet with Interstate 264, and it will take you towards Interstate 64. And I'm meeting with Interstate 464 as it's being signed for Virginia Beach and Norfolk, so it actually gets control cities going this direction. Wow, that's awesome. Here's where we reunite with US Highway 460 as 13 and 460 are going to be heading towards Suffolk and US 58 and the eastern terminus of Interstate 64. And I skip ahead to where we're splitting off from US Highway 58 as we're now getting signed for Hosky and Edenton. I have no idea why Virginia 32 is on this sign, because North Carolina 32 is again one of those pointless roads that go nowhere. Just have a Hosky on here. A Hosky's fine. But our next mileage time, we're right now getting Suffolk Airport from a 1 mile away. So they're not mentioning a Hosky anywhere, they're just mentioning the airport for Suffolk. Why, Virginia? Why? Luckily, after passing by the junction towards the airport, we are now getting a Hosky as our primary from 37 miles away. We're now entering back into the state of North Carolina, and will they do better on southbound than northbound? We'll find out. Our first mileage sign going southbound interstate. Our first mileage sign here in the state, we're actually now getting signed for Williamston from 58 miles away, so that is awesome here by NC DOT, starting off strong. Here we meet with US Highway 158 once again, and we're now getting signed for Winton. Winton wasn't even mentioned on that previous mileage sign. This should be a Hosky, sign a Hosky NC DOT. Anyways, here's where US 158 splits off to head towards Murfreesboro. And our next mileage time, we actually now get a 3-liner with Williamston still as our primary from 44 miles away. And the top line is green, while the bottom line is the brown historic mileage sign, so that's pretty cool. Here in Hosky, we're now be joining with North Carolina Highway 42 and 561 as we head towards the booming metropolis of Powellsville, which has a population of 1 trillion. And in the great booming metropolis of Powellsville, we're splitting off from the great North Carolina 42 as we're now getting signed for Windsor. I would prefer to see Williamston. But looking at our next mileage time, we are still getting Williamston as our primary from 30 miles away. Now we're going to be joining with US Highway 17 in the Windsor area. We're now going to be heading south towards Williamston. And here in the Williamston area, we're meeting with US Highway 64, and we're going to be concurrent with it as we head towards Greenville now. And here we come to the fun part, where you can see that 17 southbound is splitting off from us to head south towards Washington. And if we actually flash back to my 17 southbound video, we're signed south for Washington, which I think is a good choice. You can see that I said that Washington was a good choice for 17. Well, can I ask you a going question past me? Do you know what should be on this exit sign? Not Washington! It should be New Bern instead. Washington is a secondary compared to New Bern. New Bern is way bigger than Washington, plus US 17 makes a lot more bigger highways in New Bern. Plus New Bern is a world-famous city in eastern North Carolina. So New Bern should be on this exit sign, NC Dot, not Washington. Anyways, all the way down the road, we split off from US Highway 64 as we're now getting signed for Greenville, which is a great choice. But our next pilot time, we're actually now getting Kinston as our primary from 41 miles away, so they're favoring North Carolina Highway 11 here. I mean, since they were signing Greenville from Newton Grove, I wouldn't mind seeing Goldsboro on here instead of Kinston, but Kinston is still a pretty sizable city. Here in the Greenville area, we'll meet with US Highway 264, and it's going to be signed for Washington and Wilson. And here in the heart of Greenville, meaning the road that will take you towards downtown. And we can also see a 2 Interstate 587 shield, so that is pretty cool to see. Our next mileage town, we actually now get Goldsboro as our primary from 39 miles away, which I think is a great choice. Here's where US 264 now joins up with US Highway 13 as we're going to be heading towards Goldsboro. But our next mileage town, we're now getting Snow Hill as our primary from 16 miles away. No, NC Dot, that should be Goldsboro. You were signing Goldsboro. Why are you reverting back to Snow Hill? Snow Hill is like way tinier than Goldsboro. Plus, we don't need a lot of highways in Snow Hill. This should definitely be Goldsboro. Here's where we split off from US Highway 264 to head towards Farmville and Goldsboro. But luckily in our next mileage time, we do get Goldsboro as our primary from 32 miles away. Here, now we're going to be joining with US Highway 258, and we're now getting signed the secondary of Snow Hill. No, that should be Goldsboro. For our next mileage time, we actually now get Goldsboro on the top line from 20 miles away, and Wilson now is our primary from 23, so NC Dot's actually favoring North Carolina 58 here, which is, I think, a good choice, and a good instance of favoring a state highway. But of course, we go back to the stupid NC Dot ways. Once we split off from North Carolina 58, we're now getting signed for Newton Grove. Hey, NC Dot, I have an idea for you. Why don't you sign your 6th largest city and sign Fayetteville instead? Anyways, here on the outskirts of Goldsboro, we're meeting with Interstate 42 once again, and it's also getting signed for Kinston. I would prefer to see New Bern as well for Interstate 42 instead of Kinston. Here in the heart of Goldsboro, meeting with US Highway 70 once again, along with North Carolina Highway 111. And here we meet with US Highway 117, and where 117 southbound is going to be joining us. And here's where US 70 splits off from 13 and 117, as we're now getting signed south for Wilmington. So this is the second time that US 13 is getting signed for a Wilmington, so that is awesome. But we actually split off from US Highway 117 and Marmac here, and we can see that US 13 in the distance is getting signed for Fayetteville. In our next mileage time, we do get Fayetteville as our primary from 54 miles away. And here's a view of Newton Grove this time instead of an overhead view, and we're meeting with both North Carolina 50 and 55 in this junction, and US 71 here, which will take you up towards Smithfield. And our next mileage time, we're actually now getting Fayetteville still as our primary from 34 miles away, which is a great choice. Here in Spivey's Corner, we'll meet with US 421 once again, getting signed the same control cities that we saw going northbound. Oh boy, well, now we're getting the awful secondary control on Interstate 95 as our primary of Lumberton. If you want to favor Interstate 95, why don't you do Florence instead, not Lumberton, NC Dot? What is wrong with you? Here we meet with North Carolina Highway 82 once again, which will actually also take you towards Interstate 95. And here is the southern terminus of US Highway 13 at Interstate 95 as it's the sign for Benson northbound and Lumberton going southbound. No, that should be Florence. That should say Fayetteville and Florence. And here we can end US Highway 13 shield as we're now going to be hopping back onto Interstate 295 here. And I also have another picture. This one was sent by Ryan Golden, where she actually took a picture of Interstate 295 when it was still known as North Carolina 295 a long time ago. So thank you for sending me this picture. Anyways, here on this portion of Interstate 295, we actually do get control cities of Wilmington and Newton Grove, which are terrible choices. That should be Florence and Goldsboro, not Newton Grove. Hear me with US Highway 401 once again, being the same control cities of Wilmington and Fayetteville. Hear me with North Carolina 210 and 24 and 87 eastbound are going to be joining us as we're going to be heading towards Fort Bragg and the All-American Freeway. Here's where we split off from North Carolina 24 and 87. Looking to that 295 southbound is just going to sign for nothing. I mean, I would prefer to see Florence because we're going to be morphing back into Interstate 95, but NCDOT won't sign Florence for some reason because they're very provincial. Hear me with US Highway 401 once again at exit 12, and we just get another exit instead of an actual pull-through for Interstate 295. And then skipping ahead to the southern terminus, where you can see that Interstate 95 is being signed south for Lumberton and north for Benson. We're well south of Fayetteville. Why don't you have Fayetteville northbound like you do on the pull-through for Interstate 95 and south for Florence? No need for Lumberton. Why, NCDOT? Why do you always have to ruin stuff? That should... Anyways, here we are merging into Interstate 95 as we head south towards Lumberton and Florence. So with that, we end both Interstate 295 and US Highway 13 and we move on to the way it should be. So these are all the places that I think should be signed on US 13. Going northbound, starting off with Goldsboro, then Greenville, then Williamson, then Elizabeth City, then Ahoskie, then Suffolk, then the Hampton Road cities, then Salisbury, then Dover, then Wilmington, then Chester, then the West Philly burbs, Philadelphia, then Bensalem, Bristol, Levittown, and Trenton, and then going the other direction, Levittown, Bristol, Bensalem, Philly, West Philly burbs, Chester, Claymont, Wilmington, Dover, Salisbury, Hampton Road cities, Suffolk, Ahoskie, Williamston, Greenville, Goldsboro, Fayetteville, and finally Florence, no Lumberton. So that ends US Highway 13. Oh boy, wasn't that a fun way to start off the summer season? As we saw a lot of terrible control cities by NCDOT and a inconsistency by DelDOT too. Anyways, so with that, here are my next few highways. If you have any intersection requests for any of these upcoming highways, please let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to shout you out once these highways release. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all next week in the Midwest as we do US 270. Bye!